RJ Barrett will break out next season. Let's get into this. Quickly before we get the video started, if you guys enjoyed this video and want to see more NBA content just like this one, hit that subscribe button and that post notification bell. Anyways, back to the video. RJ Barrett was drafted number 3 overall in the 2019 NBA draft by the New York Knicks. In his draft class, there was other phenomenal players like Zion Williamson, who went number 1, Ja Morant, who went number 2, and then of course RJ went number 3. And a lot of people at the time of the draft expected there to be a little bit of a drop off between Ja Morant and RJ Barrett, but either way, they were still very high expectations for RJ Barrett going into the NBA for the Knicks. The view of RJ Barrett was not one of Zion Williamson, which was the next LeBron James, or Ja Morant, who's going to be a legitimate superstar for years to come, but the view of RJ Barrett coming into the NBA was a guy who could definitely be an all-star type talent for years upon years, and maybe even crack into that superstar role where he would actually be a pretty decent low to mid-range actual superstar in the league as well. So the expectations for RJ were definitely pretty good. And in my opinion, I think it was a little overblown just due to the fact that both Zion and RJ were completely playing amazing in the rookie season, but RJ Barrett definitely didn't live up to expectations in his rookie season and definitely did disappoint. And after RJ's rookie season, as I said before in the video, based on how well Zion and Ja came into the NBA, and RJ definitely did not come into the NBA the same way as the other two guys, I think a lot of people instantly assumed that RJ Barrett was a bust, and it didn't really matter what he was going to do in his second season, unless RJ Barrett was going to become an absolute superstar in the league. If he was anything short of that, or even an all-star, anything short of that, I think a lot of people would just assume RJ Barrett's a bust and completely just give up on him and stop talking about RJ. But just based off the numbers in RJ's rookie season, they're definitely not terrible and definitely not a bust. In his rookie season, RJ averaged 14.5 points per game on 40% shooting from the field, 5 rebounds per game, 2.6 assists per game. Obviously not amazing numbers, especially when compared to the two guys that went in front of him, and also considering the fact that RJ was a number 3 overall pick and you typically have higher expectations for a guy like that. But either way, of course, some players start slow, and averaging 14.5 points per game in your rookie season is definitely not a bust-worthy season. It's definitely an okay season at best, but it's not terrible. But the really good thing about RJ Barrett is, first, he's a very hard worker. I think a lot of people knew this about RJ already going into the NBA. He's definitely shown a great work ethic in college, and that has definitely transferred over to the NBA. But on top of that, he also has very thick skin. Obviously, playing in New York, you hear all the chatter that everybody's calling you a bust after just one season. That wasn't even a bad season, but everybody's already calling you a bust. Everybody's already saying you're not going to be as good of a player as other guys like Zion and Ja Morant. Everybody's saying you're not really going to be a good player whatsoever. But to RJ's credit, he definitely didn't let that chatter get to his head, because in his second season, he actually had an amazing improvement and had a great season, averaging 17.6 points per game on 44% shooting from the field, also averaging 5.8 rebounds and 3 assists. So literally all his numbers went up in his second season, which is exactly what you want to see. You want to see that progression from season to season, and typically when you see that, that typically means that that player has a very good work ethic and really put a ton of work and effort into his game during the offseason, because that's really where improvement is made. But let's quickly talk about RJ Barrett's game. Let's see what he actually does well on the offensive side of the ball. So of course, coming into the NBA, RJ Barrett was definitely known as a guy who was very efficient and effective at getting all the way to the basket and finishing around there. And in the NBA, that's definitely his strength. We see him use his strength and athleticism to really get to the basket and sometimes posterize over people, but that's not typically what he does. Typically what he does is he muscles defenders out of the way and really bullies them out of the way and really just puts up those layups typically. He's not a guy who's going to get a ton of posterizing dunks. While in my opinion, I think he is athletic enough to do so, that's just not necessarily his game when getting to the basket. But overall, RJ Barrett is definitely very effective when getting to the basket. I would like to see him add a few more layup packages within his game and really be a little more effective when getting all the way to the basket. But overall, I think he's a pretty good player at finishing. But now let's talk about RJ Barrett's mid-range shooting ability. So this is definitely something that he's pretty good at. RJ Barrett definitely has a catch and shoot mid-range jump shot, as well as a pull-up mid-range jump shot, which is something that he kind of added into his game more so in his second season rather than his first. But it is good to see that he does have that mid-range game. Even though a lot of players kind of steer away from it, it's definitely still a pretty effective shot in my opinion. In terms of his mid-range shooting ability, I would like to see him add that post turnaround fadeaway from that mid-range spot. It's definitely not incorporated into his game at the moment, and I don't even know if he's working on it that much, but I think eventually I would like to see him incorporate that into his game. I think think it would help him out a pretty tremendous amount in terms of his scoring efficiency numbers as well as the pure actual scoring. But now let's talk about RJ Barrett's 3-point shooting ability. So this is definitely something that he really struggled with in his rookie season, but actually in a crazy turn of events, in his second season, he was actually very good at his 3-point shooting ability. RJ Barrett was shooting over 41% from 3-point range in his second season, which is a crazy great improvement, and especially due to the fact that he was really not a good 3-point shooter whatsoever in his rookie season. It's a very good thing to see for RJ going forward. Now, RJ Barrett was hitting most of his 3-point shots on catch and shoot 3-point shots in his second season, and the next improvement and adjustment for RJ would actually be the ability to actually create for himself from that 3-point jump shot. So in terms of doing a little bit of a sidestep, step back, pull up 3-point shot, coming off a screen for a pull up 3-point shot as well, that's definitely the next step in the next level for RJ Barrett's development in terms of his 3-point shooting. But as a little bit of a baseline, shooting 41% from 3 off catch and shoot 3-point shooters is definitely a very good start. But in terms of RJ Barrett's passing and playmaking ability, this is definitely not something that he's very good at this point in his career. But from year 1 to year 2, we've definitely seen a little bit of an improvement. So that's definitely very good to see for RJ Barrett going forward. And you would expect as the seasons progress, he would get even better and better in terms of his passing and playmaking ability. And on the defensive side of the ball, RJ Barrett is definitely not an elite defender, but he's definitely an above average defender in my opinion. I think he definitely doesn't get enough credit for how good of a defender he really is. He does a good job at using his strength and athleticism to really push the offensive player out of his spots, and also uses athleticism to really stay in front of the guys on the defensive side of the ball. Yeah, he's definitely a young player and he's going to make some mistakes, but overall I think RJ Barrett is definitely a pretty good defender at this point, and I think he also has the frame, size, athleticism, everything to become an elite defender going forward in the future. But now let's get to the title of the video and the reason why you guys clicked on the video. Why do I personally think that this upcoming season RJ Barrett is going to completely break out? Well, first let me clarify what I actually mean by breakout season for RJ Barrett. So currently at this point I would personally say that RJ Barrett is definitely an above average starter, and a good starter at that, at this point averaging around 17 points per game this previous season. A breakout season in my opinion for RJ Barrett would be taking his game from a good to average, above average NBA starter to becoming an all-star level player. So in terms of the numbers, probably getting from anywhere from 17 points per game, which he did last season, to anywhere from 22 to 25 points per game next season. That would be a breakout season in my opinion for RJ Barrett. But why do I personally think that RJ Barrett will break out this next upcoming season? Well, as I mentioned before in the video, RJ Barrett has an amazing work ethic, and that's my first reason to actually believe that RJ Barrett will have a breakout year. We've seen from his first season to his second season, RJ Barrett definitely broke out slightly, getting his numbers up from 14 points per game to almost 18 points per game. And now with RJ's work ethic, I would expect RJ to improve his game from that 17 points per game to hopefully around at the very least 21-22 points per game, maybe even all the way up to 25 points per game. And that would be a true breakout season for RJ Barrett if he's able to do this. Now, another reason why I personally think RJ Barrett is going to break out this next season is based on how he looks in his open workouts during the offseason. Now, obviously, open workouts are very deceiving during the offseason. Regular players look like amazing players, bad players look like decent players. They always look better than they actually are, and RJ Barrett does look amazing in these open workouts, and obviously you can't take too much away from that. But I'm more so talking about specifics. I'm seeing RJ Barrett actually improve his 3-point shooting ability in terms of creating his own shot in general, as well as those side steps, step backs that I was mentioning before in the video that I think that would be the next step for RJ Barrett from that 3-point range. And I've been seeing him do it pretty effectively in his open workouts in these videos. So that's definitely a pretty big reason why I think RJ is actually going to break out, because the amount of work this guy is putting in, we all know, but now we're actually seeing it in his open workouts and seeing him add some new moves into his game. I think is very promising going forward. But another reason why I think RJ Barrett is actually going to break out this next season is based on the fact that in my opinion, this Knicks roster is a lot better than it was last season. Specifically, adding a guy like Kemba Walker, I think would take a ton of pressure off a guy like RJ Barrett. So now in games when RJ Barrett is going off, the defense still has to really focus on both Julius Randle and now also Kemba Walker, and RJ Barrett just would not see as many double teams now. And also on top of that, a guy like Kemba Walker could obviously go off as well, and if Kemba starts to see some double teams, that would really open up the floor for a guy like RJ Barrett. It would just take a ton of pressure off RJ Barrett, and I think that's a very beneficial thing for RJ going into this next season. So overall, I definitely do think RJ Barrett will break out this next season, but we'll definitely see what happens going forward. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you guys think RJ Barrett will break out this next season, or do you guys think that RJ won't break out this next season? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, please leave a like and subscribe and hit that post notification bell. It really helps me out a lot. Until the next time, peace out guys.